This week, a roundtable edition of Quality Digest Live featuring Mikel Harry and Tom Pyzdek, two of our leading Six Sigma practitioners in our industry. Over the next hour, Mikel and Tom will talk about the applications as well as the future of Six Sigma. We invite you to listen and join in on the conversation when we come back. Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for July 25th, 2011. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest. Well, this week we're here at the beautiful and historic Arizona Biltmore Resort and Spa in sunny Phoenix. Be with you in a minute there, Dirk. This historic hotel has hosted every president since Herbert Hoover in its 83-year existence. We thought this was a fitting location to offer this program, in which we have a discussion with Six Sigma experts Tom Pyzdek and Mikel Harry on a wide-ranging number of issues. We want you to be part of the discussion, so please email us at qdl@qualitydigest.com during the program and pose questions to Tom and Mikel. Dirk, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mike. Well, thank you once again for joining us at QDL Live. This is a special presentation of QDL Live, a one-hour program that is going to discuss the future of Six Sigma. And our special guests today are Mikel Harry and Tom Pyzdek. Tom Pyzdek has been a Quality Digest columnist for 20 years. He is the author of the Six Sigma Handbook. He's worked in Six Sigma since 1988, and he also offers online Six Sigma certificates and training at pyzdek.com. To my left is Mikel Harry. Most of you know who Mikel Harry is. He is the co-creator of Six Sigma, along with Bill Smith at Motorola, starting in about 1984. He is also a national best-selling author on Six Sigma. He has been a consultant to some of the world's leading CEOs, and currently one of his projects is MindPro. MindPro is a certificate and training that makes Lean Six Sigma available to everyone and eliminates the economic barrier to entry. Tom and Mikel, thank you both for joining us here on this program.
Thank you, Dirk.
Good
to be here.
Thank you. Well, let's start off with a great question. Six Sigma has been around since 1984. Why has Six Sigma been so successful when other quality initiatives have come and gone? Mikel, you want to lead off?
Well, sure. The way I kind of like to say it is that initiatives like TQM, which are outstanding initiatives, but they are basically focused on quality. They are about being in the business of quality. And Six Sigma is concerned with about the quality of your business. And that's a huge philosophical difference. So when we look at it from the idea of being in the business of quality, then you tend to take a tool focus, a procedural focus, a problem type focus. And when you look at it from the idea of business, being concerned with the quality of your business, then you're driven toward quality, because quality is reduced to economics, which is what the shareholders of the company are there about, improving the economics of the company. So one looks at quality as good for quality's sake, and the other one looks at it for being good for business sake.
Okay, Tom?
I think Mike's right on. That's exactly why Six Sigma has been around. It's not being done because it's a good thing to do, like TQM was, quality circles and most of the other quality initiatives. What Six Sigma is all about is helping you identify how to achieve your vision, help you drill down to the root causes that are going to make that happen, and basically help you get to where you want to go faster and with less variation.
Well, I mean, are both of you saying that if we go back to quality circles, which I know still exist in some circles, and TQM, I know we have some people who are still using TQM, are you saying that their focus isn't on the bottom line?
I think TQM in particular was focused on quality for the sake of quality. And I think that it didn't have a framework like Dmaic to help people understand how to accomplish its objectives. And its objectives were disconnected from the business objectives. And I think that because of that, it started to languish much sooner than Six Sigma well, Six Sigma has not yet started to languish, and I think the reason is, again, and I think we've had some questions by email regarding the Six Sigma acceptance, and I think where it has problems being accepted, it's because it is being done like TQM was for its own sake, and I think that's a mistake.
Well, would you say, I mean, being at their Six Sigma at the beginning at Motorola, I mean, Motorola, I'm assuming, has always looked at the bottom line. I mean, what were they doing before Six Sigma? I mean,
well, let me give you some examples there. We were heavily involved in quality. I mean, after all, we built the military radios, police radios, and back in the early 80s, we were in pretty deep hockey, as you may recall. Sure. We were in danger of losing the company. And we started to look around to see what was causing the problem. And as we introspected ourselves, we discovered we weren't as good as we thought. We found that through benchmarking data. We found that we were really about 4 Sigma. And there were some organizations out there, our competitors, had processes operating at 6 Sigma, which is about an 1,800 times difference in defect rates. And owing to that, we started asking ourselves, how are they able to do it? And we're at 4, and it started a whole questioning process in the company. And that's when it became apparent that we really started to needed to look at our business from the lens through the lens of quality. Not necessarily just the lens of business, but maybe the lens of quality is the lens of business. So as we dug deeper into our benchmarking data, we had more discussions about it. Here's what we discovered that really turned us around. We discovered very simply, every time you produce a defect, it takes time and material, floor space, people to detect it, analyze it, and fix it. And that's costly. That money goes right to the bottom line. But if you can avoid that defect by designing it out or anticipating it, then you can eliminate that cost and thereby create a bigger gap between your total operating costs and what you sell the product for, which means greater margin, or reduce the top end and make better value to the customer and grow the business.
So we're talking cost of, I mean, we were talking cost of quality, basically. Is what is the quality cost versus what you get out of it?
That's right.
But I mean, you've been in quality since since the 60s, right?
Stone Age. Yeah.
This is Stone Age. I mean, wasn't cost of quality one of the big things back then as well? I mean, well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and I know because as a publication we get pros and cons on various quality programs all the time, including Six Sigma. And one of the complaints, if you want to call it that we hear is that, look, Six Sigma, it's just doing the same thing that TQM did. TQM looked at cost of quality. TQM was bottom line driven. I mean, would you disagree with that?
Well, I think I would, because I think that if you look at quality was being done without all of the Six Sigma Dmaic framework. So what you had when you added first MAIC and then DMAIC is you had a framework for taking all of those tools and focusing them on the biggest problems that the business had. And sometimes those problems were not quality problems. Sometimes they were problems of customer satisfaction. You're building the wrong thing. So we hadn't identified the customer's requirements properly. Sometimes it was in terms of cycle time or waste. And Six Sigma was never looked at as merely something that the quality department did. It was always being done for the sake of the business. Another thing I'd like to say about costs is quality costs are a unique kind of cost because, and I don't think a lot of finance people understand this, quality costs are pure waste. So when you eliminate a quality cost, you don't eliminate any value. So that's why that benefit flows to the bottom line. And because it's a special cost, it needs to be addressed in a special way. In fact, I think in most businesses, it's the only cost that should be addressed when you're cost cutting, or at least the first cost that should be addressed, because obviously you can eliminate all costs by shutting the doors of the business, but that's not going to help your bottom line. If you can identify which costs are being, which costs are not creating anything of value or creating negative value like defects, you're going to get a lot more bang for the buck. And I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And actually, Mike, we have some questions coming in, and I think I saw one scroll by. See if it's up there. I believe there's a question.
If I could just intervene
Sure,
for a minute,
okay.
just jump in and key off something Tom said.
See if you can find. I think I saw a question go by on Dmaic and Pdca. Maybe that might.
Perhaps it, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps.
A point of keying off here is that Six Sigma was based on a vision.
Okay.
And TQM is based on a set of practices. When we first started doing Six Sigma at Motorola, it was a vision. And it was a vision-led ideal. It was a dream. TQM was never a dream.
Okay.
TQM was a mechanistic type of philosophy, a lot of philosophy to it, that didn't focus on creating a dream for the company.
And what was the dream of Six Sigma back?
The dream of the company was for us to be able to create for our customers the lowest cost product with the highest quality on time, every time. That became the dream. Now, to illustrate that, at our officers meeting, the #1 agenda had previously been about profit, costs, and if there was any time left over at the end of the day, we talked about quality.
Okay.
What Six Sigma did is it forced us to re-examine the way we got our work done and put quality at the top of the business agenda.
So it integrated quality, whereas as opposed to quality being kind of a separate thing that we think about at the end, it was integrated within the business
model. And not
model.
just integrated, it became the #1 topic. Okay. Then if there was any time left over at the end of the meeting, we talked money.
Okay. I want to get to a couple questions as we're going to interrupt you guys periodically as we go through. Remember, anytime you have questions, send them qdl@qualitydigest.com, and we will get as many of them up here as we can. I thought I saw this question come by. Why is Dmaic better than the Deming-Schuhart-Duran Pdca model? Who wants to take that?
Let me take a shot at that.
Okay.
I worked with Dr. Deming, and first of all, and I would say that Dr. Deming disavowed Pdca because he invented Pdca, and he made
a little contest going on here.
Pdca,
Right.
I don't know anything about that, and it's similar, but the truth is we integrate all those tools. We use any tool that'll get the process better, any tool that will help you improve your operations, drive out waste, drive out variation, drive out errors. And the 7 quality tools are part of Six Sigma. But what MAIC and Dmaic do is they give us a framework for applying all those tools, a place and a time when you apply a given tool in a given way to accomplish a given purpose. Pdca is something that we employ in the control phase of Six Sigma to impart continuous improvement so that the processes will be improved after the Six Sigma project is finished. So we didn't throw anything away that I can see. We embraced it. We provided a framework for using it, and it's still in there. And as new tools come available, they're included and incorporated.
Okay, this one maybe for Michael. Or a reader, or sorry, a viewer wrote in. Do you view Six Sigma as a philosophy, a tool, or a process? And from what I heard, it's maybe a little.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes,
and a few things more, like a vision, a dream. Think of Six Sigma as a pyramid in the organization, an organizational pyramid. How you see Six Sigma depends upon your position in that pyramid. For example, if you're the CEO, you're probably going to look at Six Sigma as a vision for the company, as a strategic management tool. Whereas if you're down at the worker level in an organization, you're going to see it as a Dmaic procedure loaded with statistics and projects and so on. So the whole idea of what is Six Sigma is relative to your position in the organization.
Okay. This is interesting. Okay. Are you guys familiar enough about Baldrige to kind of take on a Baldrige, somewhat of a Baldrige question?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where I met the inventor of Six Sigma, well, the CEO, Bob Galvin, at the first Baldrige Award.
Okay, well here's a question from a reader. Is Six Sigma a viable alternative to Baldrige or the EFQM? And I believe the EFQM is kind of the European version of Baldrige, I believe. Okay. Tom?
Well, I think that Six Sigma and Baldrige are two different things. The Baldrige Award is first of all, I have some issues, even though I've been an examiner with it. I look at it as a kind of a one-size-fits-all model of management, and I don't think you could do that. I think that Six Sigma lets the business be creative in the way the business leaders be creative in the way they manage their organization. Baldrige is a framework, and I like the fact that it's process-driven, because I think our businesses are functionally driven, and I think that's what our leaders are taught in business school. I think the Baldrige helps them see the error of their ways in that respect. But I don't really care for the idea of an award given by people like me. You know, I'm an examiner, or bureaucrats like the Department of Commerce. Customers should decide who the best businesses are, and ultimately, so I have some issues, and I think that Six Sigma is something that helps the business deliver maximum value to all the stakeholders, and in that respect, I think that we don't have Six Sigma awards. The customers decide that this business
that's
is
their
worthy.
award.
I'll vote with my dollars, and the successful companies using Six Sigma or Baldrige, if they find that as a useful model, can please their customers.
One of the things, Tom, I like about the Baldrige Award is when you kind of dig into it, it's got some good self-examination questions.
True.
And as a mechanism to help the leadership of a company take a deep look at itself in terms of its ability to function and in a quality way, about being focused on the business of quality versus quality of business. I think it provides some deep insights into that, and can actually motivate a management team toward improving their overall quality. But I'm necessarily in agreement with you about the award. I don't know how much value that brings to one's customers to receive an award.
So you're saying as a framework to help managers understand their business in a different way, it has some value, and I agree with you there.
It gives them a set of glasses, like they can get a different perspective of their business with it.
Well, actually, that's a good segue maybe to another question. This is something we discussed earlier, is where you apply Six Sigma. Six Sigma you can apply anywhere. Is a tool that's applicable in any application? And we have a question here. What do you think about applying Six Sigma in information technology projects? Development, support, will it be successful? R&D even. I mean, let me ask this another question. Where do you think, if anywhere, Six Sigma isn't the tool for the job?
Well, I think, Dirk, that you got to, again, take a look at Six Sigma and its evolution, where it's come from, the nature of Dmaic, the nature of the tools. It's going to be very, very difficult to take that kind of a process with design of experiments and SPC charts and histograms and Pareto charts and apply that in some of the backroom offices in a resort, for example. Mm-hmm. That's going to be very difficult to do that. I mean, let's face it, if we look at the beauty shop in a resort, I mean, how many of the hairdressing stations are we going to see control charts and histograms? It's probably just not going to happen. It may not be the inappropriate tool for that. There again, there's other ways of thinking that might be more appropriate. On the other hand, when we are in a data-rich environment, it can prove to be an extremely good tool to improve the overall business, the overall capability of the processes, etc. So I think it's very industry specific. One of the things I see with it is the type of data that a company generates. If it's a lot of pass-fail type data, it's going to be a subset of tools that are used, versus if it's more continuous data. And therefore, I don't think there is any single hard tool bag or anything else. That has to kind of be designed to fit the organization and what they're trying to achieve, the levels they're trying to achieve it at, and most of all, something you keyed on earlier, Tom, TQM's absence of connecting at the grassroots level what occurs to the big picture business metrics that drives a company. And I think that's a difference that Six Sigma brought to the table, was it connected our shop floors to the performance metrics of the corporation in a highly accountable MBO kind of way. And we linked executive bonuses to that, which was another big one. 50% of executive bonuses linked to the Six Sigma goals. So when you start to look at those types of things that Tom was talking about, like infrastructure differences, the type of organization it is, the psychology of linking business goals to performance pay, etc. Those are classic Six Sigma things of a deployment nature that TQM never really addressed. And so I'm not saying anything bad about TQM. I think it's a good thing in the right place at the right circumstances. But I will say this, in all fairness, I mean, how many corporations has TQM turned around versus how many has Six Sigma turned around? So all you got to do is ask Wall Street.
Okay. I saw another question flash by here. It's not up there now, but somebody asked, you both are involved in Lean and Six Sigma. The two kind of got joined, what, maybe a dozen years or so ago. There used to be Lean Six Sigma, now there's Lean Six Sigma. We had a question come up. What would you say to a manufacturing company that wants to use just Lean and not Six Sigma? Will that work? I mean,
can I?
Okay, Tom wants that one.
Let it rip, Tom.
The way I look at it is, first of all, Lean and Six Sigma are both subsets of systems engineering, so that they're both designed to help you improve your systems, be they business systems, production systems, whatever. Lean, to me, is a toolkit for addressing a known problem with processes. So if you understand that the main problem with your process is layout, you've got a lot of wasted movement, et cetera, you can apply the Lean approach, and you can identify, you already know what the causes are, and you can identify ways of improving them from this known set of solutions. So, you know, the work cell should be in a U shape. You know that there should be a minimum amount of inventory between the different work processes. You know you should schedule the processes in a certain way. And these are known solutions to a known problem. But when you're done, you're still going to have problems. You're going to have areas where you've got excessive variation, you've got quality problems, you've got delays, and so on. Six Sigma is going to help you solve those problems.
So you're saying you could be Lean, but you could maybe not be running perfectly, you know, lower variability.
Right.
Yeah,
so
you could be a Lean Four Sigma.
A Lean Four Sigma, right?
Yeah. So I think Lean, one of the goals of Lean, at least the way that I teach it, is perfection. And, you know, Six Sigma, while not perfection as a goal, is close to it. And you know, once you do hit Six Sigma, go for 7. You know,
right.
And the toolkit of Six Sigma is brought to bear when you've done the things you know how to do. You've solved the problems which are caused by things you've identified, and you still have problems, and you don't know what the causes are. And you can apply the Lean or the Six Sigma approach in the toolkit to find out what the CTQs are you need to change to solve the remaining problems.
Let's back up, or actually kind of change gears a little bit here. One thing I wanted to talk about is kind of what the state of affairs is of Six Sigma today. It seems to me it's morphed a lot from when you and Bill kicked it off to what it is today. There seems to be a lot of variability in Six Sigma itself. Is there a need for standardization? I mean, both of you I know have at various times and probably still do offer certificate programs. Does there need to be some sort of centralized idea of what being certified as a green belt or a black belt is? Do we need some sort of Six Sigma standard? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'll start kicking that off, and these are just kind of random thoughts about it, if you will. Observations over the last 25 years. Things where I think we've made mistakes and made the right moves in standardizing and what isn't standardized. At the end of the day, let me start at the back end with projects. At the end of the day, consultancies have no business certifying projects. Only the companies can certify those projects. So to me, a quote certification in Six Sigma should be broken down into two stages. One, a knowledge qualification, and another, a project qualification. And let me give a quick example here. Let's suppose we're all in training, and we've all been assigned a project. And Tom got a project over here where all he had to do was apply a Pareto chart, and he had $1 million savings.
Okay.
And let's say you worked your tail off. You hit the books, you had to apply analysis of variance, design of experiments, you had to apply everything in the world. And you wound up saving $150,000.
Right.
Who's the company going to certify? If there's two positions, they're going to certify Tom.
Right. Right.
Even though you actually may have more mastery over the subject than Tom at that point,
right,
in terms of practical application. Now, that's a problem that we often see occurring.
And you see that at what level? At the company itself who's doing the,
oh yeah,
the training?
and some companies are very stringent.
Whoever saves the most money wins kind of thing?
Whoever saves the most money wins, they get certified.
Okay.
And if you don't, you're gone, you know, kind of thing. So you could punch all the right buttons, be the real smart one in the class, and the next thing you know, you're out of the game because you didn't quite save as much money as somebody else. Now there's another aspect of this, and that's the standardization of the curriculum and the use of templates. And this I call it dilution pollution. We have tried to template the application in the Six Sigma toolbox to you've got to use this, you've got to use that. I can show you companies where they literally have checklists. Did you apply this chart, that diagram, even though they got the wrong kind of data for it.
Right.
And they don't know what to do about it, which makes the whole certification very difficult. The other element to it, I blame on consultancies. They don't know how to say no to customers when a customer needs to be told no. If you do it this way, you're going to dilute the system. You're not going to get out of Six Sigma what you think you should get out of it. And as a consequence, it'll collapse. So we want to see, and the customer says, well, we want to see our black belts down to certified in 2 weeks. And the consultant says, oh, no problem, we can arrange that.
Yeah. Right.
Well, the next thing you know, that starts spreading around, and then their competitor needs to keep up with that.
So are you a fan of standardization then, where there should be a standard?
Well, I speak out of both sides of my mouth here.
Are you running for anything?
Yeah, I'm running for office. No, I think standardization in certain elements is good. It's a good, healthy thing. But not so much standardization that you create the system and make it rigid to where it's an absolute standardization. I think expert judgment, for example, needs to come in when projects are reviewed. I think consultants can do a great job at certifying their knowledge that they transfer to their clients in terms of exams and so on. But in terms of judging what constitutes a good project for that company, or that black belt executed that project correctly, I think that's a company business kind of thing. So there's a whole lot to that idea of certification. Now, let me say this to that, then I'll close and let Tom speak to it. On the bad side of certification and standardization, it greatly inhibits innovation. Simply stated. Let's take a look at 3M. Remember that when that came out in some of the big magazines about how their CEO was kind of poo-pooing Six Sigma, that it was stifling innovation? Well, of course it was, the way they were trying to implement it. When you actually look at how 3M tried to go about implementing Six Sigma, it would inhibit innovation. But remember this, at Motorola, it drove innovation because we saw Six Sigma as a dream. Bob Galvin, our very illustrious CEO and chairman of the board at the time, saw the power of a dream. Like Kennedy went to put the man on the moon. Dreams unite people and drive them to incredible levels. And the single biggest thing that Six Sigma did for us with this dream, it made us introspect ourselves, look at our processes, re-examine the way we get the work done, not just tweak the existing system. So when we set the bar so high, like at 3 defects per million opportunities, it forced us to re-examine the way in which we do the work, not tweak the existing system. It made us become innovative. It got us out of the box that we were in and got us on a winning path that we would not have otherwise got out with a 25% quality improvement goal or something like that.
Tom, standardization versus innovation?
Well, I agree with Michael that standardization by definition inhibits innovation in the sense that if something is standardized, then it's a requirement that it not be changed. Okay, so that's one of the requirements. Actually, it's part of the definition of standardization. But having said that, I do think that there is a need for standardization of curriculum. And without that, I think you have the situation Michael described, which is a 2-week black belt program. My son-in-law, I won't name the company he was working for, was a certified green belt after 1 day of training. And I will say this is not a little bitty company, it's a major aerospace company. So it has happened. By standardizing the curriculum, you can prevent that from happening. You can make it clear that we have to have, these subjects have to be taught. I agree with Michael in the sense of project certification, and that's really a company-specific requirement. What I do, when I do have a project requirement, and I think that if you're a certified black belt or green belt and you haven't completed a project, that you're really not a certified green belt or black belt. But what I look for when I do my project reviews is I look to see that the people who I've trained, who've gone through the curriculum that I present, understand how to apply that curriculum and can actually implement it in a real world project. So I like to see that they've engaged a sponsor, they've recruited a team, they've coached people on their team through the various activities that they need to know, and that they have delivered a result. But I'm not as interested as an employer would be in the size of that result. I just want to know that you've identified a goal, you've drilled down to drivers, you use some of the tools, as you say, you don't have to use all the tools for all the projects, and you've accomplished something. So the project just serves as, it's like a senior class project or an engineering project.
You want to make sure they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Right. I want to know that you can do more than pass a test on this, that you can go out in the field and use it.
Okay. Let me for a second. I see we've got a lot of questions coming in, so I want to kind of just scroll through some of these and kind of cherry pick some of these. Hold on a second. Market shares compared to. Okay,
the one above it looked good.
Yeah, the one above it. Go scroll back down. There we go.
When you can, I want to come back to that with a thought on that.
Let's take your question here real quick. I've seen much evidence suggesting that many upper-level managements don't fully understand cost of quality and its profound impact on profits. What methods did you use to persuade the most skeptical CEOs and CFOs you've worked with?
Well, I will tell you, that was one of my main sales tools, is that when I show a process and mathematically demonstrate the relationship between the cost of inspection and the cost of repair and the floor space and the labor, etc., to different levels of quality. Many of these executives believe their cost of quality is only about 1 or 2%. Some might even acknowledge 5%. Some doesn't realize that their cost of poor quality can be as high as 30 to 40% of every sales dollar. That's how much money they're leaving on the table. So one of the things I do is I talk the language of management, which is money and time and shareholder value. And so to link the idea of quality to money and then be able to show the connectivity to it, it's a no sale. I mean, it's a no-brainer sale.
No-brainer, yeah.
I don't have to sell anything. They see it. For example, that's how Jack Welch got it. That was his big insight. When him and I got together, I laid that out, showed him the connection between it, and kind of they get the oh my God kind of experience.
Okay.
You know, it's an epiphany.
Yeah, they see the savings, and there you go.
And say, okay, let's go get it.
Let's
This is
get it.
laying on the table. Let's go after it.
What about healthcare? Have you either worked in Six Sigma in healthcare? Okay. What was that question? Insights for spreading Six Sigma into healthcare.
Well, first of all, there's two aspects to healthcare. The easy one is the back office operations, the administrative costs. Those sorts of areas are generally ripe for Six Sigma. They've been Six Sigma's been done there before, and it's not that hard to get them started. But the clinical areas, that's the challenge. And the main insight I guess I've had is that I have doctors talk to doctors. I have nurses talk to nurses. The peer group that healthcare professionals identify with is their profession. And they're not going to really listen to a consultant that stands up there and extols the virtues.
Which is typical of kind of the medical profession in general. They're very kind of a closed group to outside consultants in general, aren't they?
But they're also very data driven, and they're also trained to study evidence and to do diagnoses of problems with patients. And you can take that and transmute it into an understanding of processes. Mm-hmm. And I find doctors, if the consultant who's doing the training really knows what he's doing, and if he's willing to listen to them, are very receptive to the data-driven aspects of Six Sigma and the fact that it's a way of solving process problems just like they solve problems with their patients. And if you go back into the early days of quality, that's what Duran did. Duran approached quality as a diagnostic tool, and he drew analogies with healthcare when he created the Six Sigma handbook, the quality control handbook, and a shameless plug. But if you can take their professional knowledge, their medical knowledge, and relate what they're doing with Six Sigma to that, I found they're very receptive to that. And then once you get a champion, a passionate champion, stand him up in front of the other people in the profession or her, and let them tell the story to their colleagues. And if I could go back to what Michael was saying earlier about the approaching CEOs, I found that's effective with CEOs too. So I get some of the CEOs who have become champions that I've worked with in the past, and connect them to the others. And I know that that's what you did at GE with Bossity and Jack Welch. Mm-hmm. So it's very effective. They tend to listen to their peers and respect that. And I would make use of that if I were trying to convince a skeptical CEO.
We've been talking quite a bit about and there's a user that's jogging us on this. We've been talking about kind of the past state of Six Sigma. So what is the current state of Sigma? I mean, where are we at? What is it? 25 years later. I mean, is it stronger? Is it growing? Is it declining? Is it a fad still after 25 years? I mean, where are we at?
Well, obviously, if it's a fad, Dirk,
it's a really good fad.
It's a really long fad. I think it's continuing to grow, but as our Six Sigma industry, if you will, we don't often see it because Six Sigma is becoming institutionalized. And here's what I mean by that. Six Sigma is now offered by many universities. So we got the kids coming out of school already, green belt, black belt certified, being hired directly into a company.
Sure.
So from a Six Sigma industry point of view, we might tend to see it waning because consultants say, hey, my business is going down. I'm not getting as much consulting. I'm not selling as much training. Well, of course not. Large-scale institutions are picking it up and finding their own versions of it and delivering it. So I think that's definitely a direction, and it is growing. It's propagating out to many different industries, from finance to healthcare. You name the industry, and it's starting to feel its way, as well as countries. Globally, it's starting to move. So I don't see any evidence of a decline or a rescinding of Six Sigma. In fact, quite the opposite. And a simple understanding of that is what's the alternative to it right now? Right. There isn't one. Well, you know, a question I get, well, Mike, what's beyond Six Sigma? Is Seven Sigma? I say, I don't know, Google on, boo-boo, I don't know. I can't even get to Six Sigma myself.
And we'll be getting actually to the future,
And I tell
the future
them,
in just a few
hey,
minutes.
and I tell them, you go to Seven Sigma and come and tell me what it's like.
Exactly. Can we scroll through, just scroll up a little bit on the questions there. I'm sorry, the other way. Scroll down, yeah, okay. Chain reactor, okay. Costs go down, okay. Hold on a second. An advice question. What advice do you have for helping people understand, the Six Sigma, yeah.
That's okay. It'll be fun.
Let's do this one, okay. Do you have for helping people understand that there are no Six Sigma problems, but that problems are problems, and Six Sigma is a problem-solving approach? And I'm guessing what the question they're asking is, do you use a Six Sigma hammer on every nail?
Well, I don't think so. I think that Michael already answered the question, which he's saying that you don't do Six Sigma for the sake of Six Sigma.
That's right.
You do it to improve the organization's performance for all of its stakeholders. And I believe that's what they're talking about.
Okay.
It's not a problem. It's not a Six Sigma problem. It's a business problem, and you're going to use Six Sigma
To solve it.
to solve it.
Okay.
I look at that question, it makes my eyes go around. I think it's a problem about a problem. I'm not sure.
What's the problem with the problem?
I guess I'm not smart enough to get the question figured out.
Okay, what options do I have when I want to do a real world project, but my company is too small and not motivated to support Six Sigma? Actually, I really like this question. One of the things that I hear about, and even some surveys that we've done, is like, Six Sigma is just, it's expensive, I have to train a black belt, or I have to bring in a consultant, I'm a mom and pop shop, I got 10 employees. Six Sigma sounds great, I can't do Six Sigma. I mean, that's for companies that got 100 people or 1,000 people. I mean, how do you address that? Where this guy seems, seems like he wants to do Six Sigma, but he's not going to get support for that in a small
Let me tell you,
shop.
my advice for him is if he has the burning desire to do Six Sigma, and he really wants to do it and believes he can make improvement, go find a company. There's plenty out there that'll take you on in a heartbeat for that.
And
if you're getting resistance for a company, you don't want to be a high performance person working in a mediocre company.
But I mean, the resistance part of it is I mean, maybe from a management point of view, they might be agreeing and saying, this sounds great, but I can't afford to train somebody.
The problem we have, there are two problems. One is the small business who could use it, but they can't afford the training expense and the employee expense. And the other is the trainee who can't find a project to do. And it'd be nice if we could get them together somehow. I think that'd be a great project for Quality Digest. Somehow, have a pool of talent and opportunities to pair them off. But some of my students, and I require that they do a project in the real world, are unemployed. And they've come up with creative solutions to this. One of them got a job and is now gainfully employed by going to the employer and saying, I have this skill set, I've been trained, I've had 200 hours of Lean Six Sigma training, and I need a project to complete my certification requirements. And the employer hired them on as a temp to do this project, was so impressed with the results that they gave this person a position, and he's now moved into actually creating a Six Sigma organization within that organization. So that's a solution. I had another guy, I hate to talk so fast, but I saw you were going to stop me, and I thought I'd jump in there. Two other innovative project identifications. One fellow was sitting in his doctor's office waiting, and he thought, man, I bet I could help this, my doctor reduce the waiting time of patients. And, he mentioned that, got a project with his physician. Another person helped his church with their annual fundraising event. Increase attendance, increase the amount of money they made from the event, increase customer satisfaction. So he had three, three different projects that he was solving for. And there are ways to do this.
So the projects are, I mean, if I kind of synthesize what both of you said, is the projects are out there. If the company that you're working for can't fund your training or whatnot, you might still make sense to get the training, either go work for a company that can afford that skill set that you now have and work for somebody, or if if you are, maybe it's your own company, maybe it's your own company that you're trying to support, or maybe you just got a very vested interest in your small company, you can still go out, get that training, learn how to apply it, and then come back to your own company and hopefully put it in place. But you're probably going to have to take on that expense of that training yourself, on your own.
Yeah, Dirk, I'm going to take some exception to that.
Okay.
Six Sigma was never designed for small business. It was designed as a large-scale intervention on a company having problems and a way to refocus the strategic direction of that company and then deploy that across a large number of people. That's the whole point of the belt rack, of the black belts, the green belts, etc., in identifying projects that link together in their metrics, in dollars that pool up to move the business, and the needle of business.
So you would almost have to write off the small business then. I mean, in terms of Six Sigma.
What I'm saying is right now, the whole black belt certification thing, all that kind of stuff is, and project, etc., is not amenable for small business. And I'm going to give you an example. People ask me all the time, Mike, do you apply Six Sigma in your own business? No, not as you know it.
Right.
I'll tell you what I do is I teach my people the Six Sigma way of thinking. We are not set up to do projects. We're a small business, small staff. We don't deal with a lot of data. We primarily deal with a lot of innovation and that sort of thing. Our projects are dynamic. Our processes are ad hoc. And for that, there are principles that can be extracted from Six Sigma, and I teach those to my staff, and we apply those, like principles in design for Six Sigma and so on. Like the simple idea that greater complexity, that the throughput yield goes down for a constant capability as complexity increases. When they understand that idea, it makes them examine their initial capability and look at and think through how many steps are going to be in this process they're designing and get a better process. So will we ever apply control charts and run design of experiments in my shop? I doubt it.
Well, this is a perfect segue into the kind of what we've been leading up to is the future of Six Sigma. It sounds like you may have just touched on it. It sounds like what you're saying, and see if you guys agree on this, is that the future of Six Sigma maybe isn't black belts and green belts and all this stuff, which might make sense in a large company that can afford the training and so forth. So the future of Six Sigma is something, what, a little bit different?
I think so. And let me kick this on. Tom, by all means, at any point, kick in here and we just have some dialogue about this. I feel pretty strong about this. One of the big frustrating points over 25 years at Point Six Sigma and God knows how many corporations is when you start getting to the backroom offices where the sophistication is not there, where the level of education is not as high, where the degrees are not as technical, and the people are more right brain versus left brain kind of thing, it starts breaking apart. But the one thing that we discovered is that you can take the Six Sigma way of thinking and show that to people, and they can benefit and get gains from it. Let me give you an example. Take a case where we look at a typical work team. They're about maybe what, late 20s, early 30s? Same thing with the team leader. And the boss comes down and says, we want you to make a 50% improvement in cycle time in the next 6 months. Suddenly stand there with the deer in the headlight look. Comes back to the team, says, team, we got to do this. Well, what's the first thing that occurs? You know, if there's 11 people in the room, you got 14 opinions on how to do it. Right. You know, kind of like statisticians. Sure. Put 5 in a room, you're going to have 7 opinions when you get done. You know. But the key is that leader doesn't know how to structure a problem from a Six Sigma point of view and reverse engineer that structure into the problem, of like going from basic values around it to the catalysts that will realize it, to the milestones they need to achieve, to the forces that driving and restraining that will give them the momentum, to the actions that engage or disengage those forces. Right. That kind of thinking. So what do? They look around and see who's been successful. They run over and they try that. It didn't work. They play hit and miss. Oh, I got an idea, let's try that. Change this, change that, let's buy one of these. Right. Instead of approaching it in a systematic, logical way that Six Sigma offers, that's where the action's going to be in the future. We've propagated it into most of the Fortune 500 companies, 1,000 companies. It's going down lower, and as we go lower in the companies, the more they need the Six Sigma way of thinking, not raw tools.
What do you think about that?
Well, I agree. I think that, to get a little bit arcane, our education system, one of the primary founders was a philosopher named John Dewey. And Dewey's philosophy was pragmatism. And pragmatism is just what Michael said. It's, let's try this, let's try that, let's copy what someone else is doing. It does not incorporate principles. In fact, it doesn't believe that there are such things as fundamental principles. And what the Six Sigma approach is based on a methodology that says there are root causes. There are fundamental things that drive these results that you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And the Six Sigma approach is an antidote to the modern education system. And I've seen people, one of my black belt trainees left the industrial world, and she's went to work with women who are having problems. And what she discovered was that the women are, as Michael put it, like billiard balls. They're being basically bounced from one thing in their life to another without understanding that they're in control of their life, that they can actually make changes to their lives, to the causes of the problems that they're having, to make the problems go away. And she has this revelation because of her black belt training. You know, as a black belt, we learn, you know, to identify what we're solving for, to find the drivers, to go down to the CTQs, to find the root causes, and to make changes at that level. If you want a result, you have to change the things that are causing the results that you don't want to go away.
So you know, excuse me, just building off that just a second. You know, you think about it, we teach in school reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we never teach our kids how to succeed. We never hand them a roadmap for success. And Six Sigma is it. When you take out the big ideas from Six Sigma and align them in a sequential order, you've got a way of reasoning that reflects the type of reasoning that black belts and green belts use. And that you can use in your home life, your work life, and your personal life. You can help your kids. It helps parents then learn how to teach your kids how to succeed.
So are you guys both saying that is using kind of the problem-solving approach that Six Sigma brings, or kind of the mindset that it brings?
Well, let me give an example. A lot of people that we have found, that's just shocked me in the last 4 years. I mean, shocked me. The number of people that grapple with just the idea of cause and effect.
Right.
I mean, they take a look and turn to things to solve problems in their life, like a book out called The Secret, which basically advocates you bring about what you think about. So if you think long and hard enough that a $100,000 check's going to appear in the mailbox and beat the tom-tom drums long enough, right, one day it's going to appear.
Right.
Well, those kind of people are preyed upon. We know we live in a deterministic world. And the idea of repeatability, teachability, simplicity, in the idea of determination, cause and effect, and to start reasoning and looking at the world that way, then suddenly they discover their life don't have to be billiard balls on a table, and they discover geometry, and realize they can put an angle on the ball and make it go where they want. And then they get the real shot. The big aha is when they discover that you can design an opportunity. People think you got to wait on an opportunity to happen in your life. You don't, you can design it. Opportunities are a function of the initial circumstances and conditions that underpin it. If you got the right conditions and circumstances, you'll have the opportunity. So why not apply design for Six Sigma thinking and reverse engineer by defining the conditions that you need to achieve, implement them, and lo and behold, poof, the opportunity is in front of you.
Okay, well that's I like that from you know, on a personal level. I understand what you're saying, you know, cause and effect. Well, let's get away from the personal level for a little bit. What about on the things that affect our everyday life?
Well, wait a minute. They didn't stop at the personal level, because at the personal level, they carry that into work.
Well, and that was my
You know how
point.
many people sitting at work think that way inside these corporations?
Well, what about government?
Same thing in government.
Well, that's where I wanted to lead into is can you take this, if you start it on a personal level and move it up, if you have, let's say politicians and maybe their constituents, I mean, can you translate this into something that's a little bit more esoteric, and can you translate it into government or education or?
Well, there's no reason that it can't work. What the process excellence movement, as I like to think about it, is all about is improving processes. So if you have process that you're working on, working with, this approach can help you identify what you're trying to accomplish with the process, identify what's causing that result, and make improvements. So it can work. But what's the incentive for government to do that? In the
no
business,
incentive.
it's a system where, unlike business, where we can go in and say, you should make these changes because you've got competition, and your investors may leave you and your customers may go to someone else.
Right.
That doesn't apply to governments.
So there's no incentive.
There's no incentive. In fact, there's a perverse incentive. They have an incentive to go in the exact opposite direction and to build a large, empire as protection and as a power base. So I'd say it can work, but I don't think it will until.
Now, who was it? Wasn't it what, Michael George?
Oh, he's doing some great stuff there. Yeah, working with Newt Gingrich and starting to solicit some support towards Six Sigma in government.
But would it work?
I agree with Tom. There's no reason it shouldn't, but there is some big disincentives that has to be overcome. I think there's a lot of system redesign that's going to have to occur, and maybe Six Sigma is it. Maybe it isn't.
Here's a place I think. Here's why I think it's working with the Newt Gingrich example, the Michael George example. We're running out of money. So if you go to the government bureaucrat and you say, I'm going to cut your budget, we can tell him what to cut so that they'll have minimal impact on their constituency if they care, right? If they're in politics, they may do exactly the opposite and cut where it's going to cause the most pain so that they can get their funding restored. So again, it's a set of incentives that I think pull these people in the wrong directions.
I think another difficult element is you have people there for 2 to 4 years. And we know that to implement and really realize the benefit takes a long period of time.
How is it having a sun devil and a wildcat in the same room at the same time?
I've been trying to avoid that subject, but
what is the question? What is the Six Sigma way of thinking?
What is the Six Sigma way of thinking in a nutshell?
It's simple. Here's the Six Sigma way of thinking. First, you got to do the dreaming. Then second, you got to dream the doing. Then you got to plan the doing and do the plan. Basically, DMAIC that's it. So let's think about that a minute. You got to do the dreaming. People are really good at doing the dreaming. They can see their chart going up, their page going up, the happy customers, everything else. From a corporate point of view, from a personal point of view, people can dream the big dream. It's pretty easy to do. The tough part is dream the doing. That's where people fail. In visioning, I mean, when you look at athletes, top athletes, what do they dream at night? Standing on there, getting the big gold medal? No. They're thinking about dreaming about getting their muscles bigger and jumping farther and exercise. And then you got to plan the doing and do the plan. Well, let's look at those 4 things. Do the dreaming and do the dreaming and dream the doing is innovative by nature. Plan the doing and do the plan is execution. So it takes both left brain, right brain, innovation and execution to realize dreams. And that is basically the Six Sigma way of thinking at the highest level. And I tell you what, we're teaching children that through, I'll do a plug here, luckycattv.com.
Okay, well, we'll get that onto our player, and we'll let that plug. Lucky Cat. What is Lucky Cat TV?
Lucky Cat TV is a program endorsed by DARE, D-A-R-E,
sure.
And they're out there trying to help kids get a better way of life, to succeed better, and they've adopted what we call the Great Discovery, the Six Sigma way of thinking, into a program that they're teaching kids now as young as 7, 8 years old. We've got several classes going of kids 12 years old planning out their future through those 4 simple steps. Do the dreaming, dream the doing, plan the doing, and do the plan.
Okay. Tom, Six Sigma in a nutshell?
Well, to tell you the truth, Michael did nail it. And what I was thinking of is a chart that I have that starts with the vision and it goes to strategies, metrics, plans, and projects. And you know, it's not as interesting or as entertaining as Michael put it, but I think that is it in a nutshell. You have to start with a vision. You have to have a dream because Six Sigma is like a Ferrari. It's going to get you to where you're going quickly, but if you don't know where you're going, it may just run you into a wall. And I think that's something to be aware of.
Excellent point.
Okay, well guys, you know, we could sit here and talk about this for probably another hour. We've had a lot of questions come in. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them. We got to as many as we could. We will forward those on to, I will forward the rest of those questions on to Michael and Tom so that hopefully in their copious spare time they'll actually respond to you via email on some of those. Before we wrap up, I want to let you know that we do have another live program, a Technorazzi Live, coming this Thursday with Geomagic. And Geomagic is a 3D analysis, point cloud analysis software, and 3D3 Solutions, which is a white light scanner. That'll be Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Michael?
Hey.
Appreciate you being
Thanks,
here.
sir. Enjoyed it.
Dirk,
Tom?
enjoyed it. Michael?
Always good seeing you.
Good to see you.
Great.
You bet.
And again, we'll forward the rest of your questions on to them, and hopefully these gentlemen will get back to you. Once again, thank you for joining us for this special episode of Quality Digest Live. And remember, we're also live every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific. See you again.